So, this is officially the oldest game that I've covered on the channel. Not only that, but this is one of the most important video games ever made. MGS was released in a time where 3D consoles, voice acting, and cinematic ambitions were becoming technically feasible and more widely expected. Metal Gear Solid popularized the stealth genre. Yes, stealth in gaming existed, but MGS played a major role in bringing stealth-based gameplay into the mainstream. It also elevated video games as a narrative medium. It's often cited as a benchmark for how to integrate cinematic storytelling into video games, and its use of voice acting and cutscenes was super ambitious for its time. Speaking of ambitious and ahead of its time, MGS included moments that broke conventional player expectations. For example, the extremely infamous Psycho Mantis boss fight, wherein the boss itself would read your memory card on the PS2 and would require you to physically change controller ports in order to defeat him. Even outside of big and important sections like this, the regular gameplay encourages using your head to figure out what you need to do and where you need to go. There's no quest markers or linearity, and the game forces you to listen to what your comrades are telling you in order to find your way around. MGS proved that Japanese development games had a wide appeal in the Western markets, and many Western developers cite MGS as inspirational. Its influence is still felt decades later. As PC Gamer put it, it's tremendously influential, yet unique. Other games may ape the mechanics or take swings at its bizarre plot beats, but nothing Metal Gear's like Metal Gear. But that's enough glazing for now. But before I start, I want to say this video is going to be released in 2 parts. Because this game is so long and massive.
That's what she said!
And there's so much to talk about, I'm gonna have to release it in 2 parts. If I released it as one, it would be ridiculously long, and it would take me way too long to make. So this is part 1 of 2, keep that in mind, and part 2 will come at some point. Anyway. Metal Gear Solid doesn't really have chapters or obvious separation between sections until much later in the game, so I'm going to ditch my usual chapters during this video and just summarise the story before talking through my playthrough. The game opens up with a dramatic crisis on Shadow Moses Island, which is a remote military base in Alaska, home to a nuclear weapons disposal facility now seized by a rogue faction. That faction is a splinter group made up of rogue members of Foxhound, which is a special forces unit for the US government. They have taken control of the base, and they're threatening nuclear catastrophe unless their demands are met. With the stakes impossibly high, the US government calls one of its most capable operatives, Solid Snake, a former member of Foxhound. His mission? Infiltrate the facility, neutralize the threat, and rescue key hostages, who know secrets that are vital to halting a nuclear launch. As Snake enters deeper into the base, he establishes contact via radio with several allies. Colonel Roy Campbell oversees the operation from command, but on site, Snake will meet the likes of Otacon, an engineer, and Merrill Silverberg, a new-to-the-field soldier. However, Snake soon learns that the situation is far more intricate than a typical hostage rescue. The nuclear disposal facility is a front for a clandestine project, the development of Metal Gear Rex, a walking, nuclear-armed mecha capable of launching strikes from anywhere in the world. Complications mount as several hostages die suddenly of heart attacks just after speaking with Snake. Meanwhile, Snake faces Foxhound's operatives one by one: Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Revolver Ocelot, Vulcan Raven, and Decoy Octopus, each presenting unique challenges and personal agendas. At the heart of the conspiracy is Liquid Snake, the force behind Foxhound's revolt. He reveals that he and Solid Snake are both. The conflict crescendos as Snake must destroy Metal Gear Rex, outwit the remaining Foxhound members, survive the betrayal and deception swirling around him, and confront the moral weight of his own origins. In the end, the Shadow Moses incident becomes far more than a nuclear standoff. It becomes a reckoning over identity, genetics, loyalty, and the limits of control. Right, well with that, let's get into the playthrough. So after being given our needed context, we get a lovely shot of Snake swimming into the lowest level of Shadow Moses. And if you're looking at this and thinking it looks awful, you're not cultured, and you're not a real gamer. Also, just listen to this music. I know everyone who's watching this that played this game when it came out just shed a tear. Taking a seat on the wet steps, we overhear Liquid telling his guards to stay alert for me. Now this is the point I would usually say something snarky like, oh yeah, that'll work. But I can't lie, this game is really hard at points. Like, really goddamn difficult, and I got fucked up quite a lot. Just after this, Snake has his first of many, many calls on the codec. And this is where we're introduced to the Colonel. And if you don't pay attention, you may miss the fact that the game both shows and tells you that the Colonel's frequency is 140.85, which you will have to remember. You can, and will have to call your allies multiple times throughout this game, and there's no speed dial, you have to remember each person's personal frequency. I would also suggest you do what I did and take this as time to figure out your buttons, because the control scheme is really weird.
A is crouch. Oh, and prone. Okay, so I can't crouch walk, as far as I can tell. Cool. Oh, hold B for first person, very cool. Y makes me dance. Is that a grab? I think that's a grab. Ooh. And X is to beat the shit out of people. I see a box down there. Can I just go down?
You also don't swim in this game. You walk across the floor like Godzilla. And in this first little section, you can find a ration in the bottom left corner, which will be an extremely valuable consumable that you absolutely should keep full whenever possible. But don't expect me to tell you where every single item in the game is, because it would take way too long. While sneaking to the elevator, I stepped in a piss puddle, which the guard right next to me heard.
What was that noise?
But fortunately for me, I'm just way too fast, and I hide behind a forklift to get out of sight, like all good infiltrators do. Getting to the elevator triggers another call. Colonel tells Snake to be patient and wait for the elevator to come back down before using it. So I once again stick my back up against the forklift and wait, and wait, and wait, until it finally comes down and births another guard. Fortunately, he gets bored and walks off, so we sprint past him like a shadow and start making our way upwards. Snake uses this moment of calm to take off his gimp mask, revealing his gorgeous, single-digit polygon face. We are also granted the amazing title card! Getting to the top of the elevator shaft, Snake skedaddles off and gets behind cover to call the Colonel and update him. This is where we get introduced to Naomi, who is the medical chief of Foxhound. She asks us how our sneaking suit is working out, and Snake tells her that it's lovely when it comes to keeping him dry, but it's a little hard to move. I like this opening chat between these two. It gives you a good idea of what to expect from the dialogue, and that expectation is a lot of explaining and a lot of campiness. But it's the charming kind of campy, and the Japanese to English translation can be quite obvious. But anyway, we learned that before the mission, Naomi injected Snake with an anti-freezing peptide, the same shot that all of the genome soldiers are using. We'll get to those soldiers later though. The Colonel comes back to let us know that the diversion is underway. 2 F-16s are heading this way to, well, divert. Coming out of the codec for a second, we are blessed with the first sighting of Liquid.
Liquid!
Snake notices his Hind D first, a badass attack helicopter. He asks the Colonel what in God's name is a Russian helicopter doing here, but he's not got a scoop. The metal bird takes flight, which tells us that the diversion has worked. Top notch! Colonel lets us know that we only have 18 hours until Foxhound launch their nuclear strike. They've given the US 24 hours to meet their demands. Those demands being the remains of Big Boss, who is a very, very important character that I will talk more about later. And also during this conversation, Mei Ling gets introduced to us. Mei is a Chinese-American data analyst, another part of our radio support team. Being an MIT student, she's super duper smart, and she's in charge of recording Snake's mission data. What this means in the context of gameplay is that she's the person you call to save your game. Once again proving how fucking awesome this game is. There's not a pause menu that you use to save your game. You have to remember her frequency and call her in order to save your progress. Snake also flirts with her within the first 5 seconds of them meeting. Get used to that, it'll happen a lot. Finally coming back out of the codec, Naomi walks us through how the minimap works. But you're a gamer, you know how that works. But a useful piece of information she tells us is that the genome soldiers have highly developed senses of hearing and vision. All you need to know about these soldiers for now is that they're super soldiers created by using the But the info dump isn't over just yet. May tells us that if we're spotted, this will disable the minimap, so keep that in mind. The Colonel tells us to call at any point if we need info, and that the only equipment we have is our binoculars, so we should arm ourselves with whatever we can find. But we do have our cigarettes, and Naomi questions how the hell we managed to smuggle them in there. Before the mission, Naomi gave Snake another shot that suppresses his stomach acids so he wouldn't throw up in the submarine. He used that opportunity to swallow a pack of cigarettes. Freak. I didn't know this at the time, but when you equip them, the cigs can reveal infrared lasers and improve aiming accuracy apparently. Snake whips out his binos and takes note of the guards that are on patrol. Colonel points out the air duct that's near the main entrance. There's also one on the catwalk above the entrance. Amazing, sounds easy. With that, we're finally set free and can play the game. My personal first order of business was running through the helipad, dodging the spotlights and picking up some chaff grenades. These are extremely useful. If you throw them near a security camera, they'll scramble the bastard, meaning you can slip into places that are now not covered by CCTV. You're going to want to keep chaff grenades on you at all times if possible. And because they're basically EMPs, they will also disable your minimap when they go off, so keep that in mind. Next up, if you jump in the back of the truck that's just at the front entrance, you can grab yourself a SOCOM pistol. Now, you may be thinking, fuck yeah, I now have the means to fight back. Which is true, but the weapon is unsilenced, and for a stealth mission, an unsilenced pistol is a little counterproductive. So for now, just keep it in its holster. Of course, we get into the vent and crawl into the base. When in the vent, Snake receives a call from McDonald Miller, who is the survival trainer of Foxhound. He has a very vast array of scientific knowledge. Also, Snake calls him Master. He talks about the mice that are in the vent with us. He tells us that they are Alaskan field mice, gives us some facts about them, and then says that if there's mice in there, then there has to be an exit. And if you follow the mice, you will find that exit. As soon as we crawl out of the vent, the Colonel calls. Dude, is this really the best time? Honestly, it's really not. He just tells us to use the elevator to change floors. Bruv, I know how an elevator works. Although, now that I have a weapon, he informs us about the existence of Natasha Romanenko, who is the weapons specialist assigned to this mission. If you need to know something about a weapon or some equipment, call her and she will info-blast you. After running around for a moment like a headless chicken and picking up some bullets for the pistol, I very stealthily press the button for the elevator, and it arrives so goddamn fast. Thankfully, you're invisible when you're choosing a floor, because I definitely would have been spotted right now if not. With no idea where to go, I figured B1 would be the best choice. Turns out it was. This is the floor with the holding cells, which is where the DARPA chief is. Let's fucking go! Running to the end of the hall, we can climb into another vent. This leads us to the cell holding the DARPA chief. And after creeping on him for a couple moments, Snake acrobats his way into his cell, and lets the chief know that he's here to save him. At first, he doesn't believe it, but after a little convincing from Snake, he settles down. But before we bust out of here, we're gonna pull out some info from this mofo. Snake gives Anderson the rundown of what the terrorists have threatened, and asks if the terrorists really have the ability to launch a nuke. Anderson confirms that they do, because they have access to a new bipedal nuclear weapons platform. This is where we first hear about Metal Gear Rex. I cannot explain to you how goddamn cool Metal Gear Rex is. My explanation cannot do it justice, but here it is anyway. Metal Gear Rex is a new type of nuclear delivery system. It's a walking tank, capable of launching nuclear warheads from anywhere in the world, and completely undetectable by radar. Essentially, it's a massive mecha suit, loaded with nuclear warheads that's impossible to detect. The reason this is so shocking to Snake, other than the fact that the terrorists have a super weapon, is that as far as he was concerned, the Metal Gear projects were destroyed. But oh no. Metal Gear Rex was developed in secret inside Shadow Moses as a joint project between DARPA and Arms Tech. Snake questions how the terrorists could even launch a nuke with the safety measures that they have.
Oh, you mean PAL?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Anderson explains that every nuclear launch requires 2 launch codes. One code held by Anderson himself, and the other by Kenneth Baker, the Arms Tech president. He goes on to tell us that Foxhound have already acquired his code. They used Psycho Mantis to suck the info out of his brain. Psycho Mantis has psychic powers, by the way. That's how they found out Anderson's code. We'll talk more about him later. Anderson tells Snake that Baker is being held somewhere in the facility, likely still alive, hopefully, and urges Snake to rescue him before the terrorists get his code as well. But we're also told that there's a way to stop the launch. Snake will need to use an emergency override, but that's in the Metal Gear hangar, and that's somewhere that we can't get until much later. However, he does give us a level 1 security card. Snake attempts to question Anderson further, but in an attempt to dodge Snake's questions, the DARPA chief has a heart attack and dies. That is a very effective technique. Shit. Naomi, help me! Snake questions both her and the Colonel, asking if they're hiding something from him. But as far as they can tell, this was just a generic, very unfortunate heart attack. Although, the timing is very suspicious. Anyway, he says it doesn't matter now, we just need to find Baker. I mean, okay, that's great and all, but I'm kinda stuck in this goddamn cell now. I suppose I could eat this floor ration while I wait. The door does eventually unlock, for some reason, so Snake safely exits the cell to investigate. What the fuck, is that the guard?
Don't move!
Whoa, cool it. You definitely don't want to shoot me in the face. This perfectly disguised woman thinks that we killed the DARPA chief. But when Snake stands up to her, she shakes, exposing her being new to all of this. Snake notices this too, and points it out. The two bicker about whether or not she's a rookie, and this catches the attention of the guards outside, who prepare to bust in. The game then throws you straight into combat, and if you didn't call Campbell when you got your pistol, you may not even know how to shoot at this point. Thankfully for me, I did, so I start blasting. After the first 3 guards, 3 more come to take their place. Snake demands the woman to help out and shoot the guards, which she does, and from this point out, she'll actually help you take down the rest of the men, which there is a lot of. Now that we're free, the game is also free to give us an amazing ass shot of the woman running towards the elevator. Snake then experiences a vision. 3 of the Foxhound members are gathering around the DARPA chief, who has been killed. Psycho Mantis says his mental shielding was too strong, and they didn't manage to get the code from him. But that doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't blame you for being confused. I was very confused as well. But this will make sense. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, I just can't tell you why. Speaking of Psycho Mantis, he appears in the hallway, which, naturally, surprises Snake. I would be as well if some random floating dude with a gas mask just appeared in front of me. And then he just disappears. Snake calls Naomi to ask what the fuck just happened, and she correctly assumes that it was Psycho Mantis' doing. And that's the only thing this conversation is good for. Rightio, let's head to basement level 2. This place is very confusing the first time you play the game. For starters, at this point in the game, there's no enemies here. Not only that, but it's just full of different rooms that have different pieces of equipment in them. You also need multiple keycards, meaning you'll be coming back here quite a few times. But, for now, we're just going to collect some C4 for later use. After some time of mindlessly exploring, I find myself entering a room on floor 1 which contains the suppressor for the SOCOM. Now I can kill people silently. Also on the upper floor of this room, to the left, you can get into a room containing the cardboard box. If you're not a Metal Gear fan, then this will be unimportant to you. But as all us Metal Gear fans know, the cardboard box is iconic. It's become synonymous with the games and has appeared in every entry. And immediately getting use out of the box, I use it to sneak past a camera and grab some thermal goggles. These will also come in very useful later. Unfortunately for me though, I pick an extremely terrible time to head back to the elevator, and this leads to my first death in the game.
Snake, are you okay? Snake? Snake?
Back to basement level 2. After a lot of thinking, I finally noticed the fact that some of the walls in this place have a different texture. And oh yeah, this is the same place I got given C4. So putting 2 and 2 together, and now we can enter a new area. This place sucks a little though. Your minimap is jammed the entire time, and the game introduces turret cameras, which, in theory, is very cool. But fuck these things. They become so obnoxious later in the game, and they suck early game because of how little health you have. After a few more C4 explosions, which is still stealthy of course, we enter a new room, this one containing Kenneth Baker, the president of ArmsTech. However, he's strapped up to a shit ton of C4, but he is alive. All of a sudden this rootin' tootin' gunslinger appears. This is Revolver Ocelot, a master of interrogation and a formidable gunfighter. He's often referred to as a ricochet genius in regards to his gunfighting skills, and he was known for his affinity towards spaghetti westerns. He caresses his revolver like it's his lover, and gives us a speech about how it's the best gun ever made before launching us into a boss fight. Being the first boss fight of the game, it is one of the simpler ones, but I wouldn't blame you for thinking otherwise. Every single boss fight in this game is really hard, but in comparison to the others, this fight isn't too bad. Ocelot circles around the arena, ricocheting bullets off of the walls to hit you. Thankfully, the game knows revolvers have 6 bullets, unlike some, and Ocelot will have to reload every 6 shots, giving you an opening to fight back. Also keep in mind the trap rigged around Baker. If you shoot or touch any of the wires connecting to him, everything will blow up. After defeating Ocelot and proving you're the better gunslinger, he will actually praise you for your skills. But before he can continue the fight, a motherfucking ghost zips into the room and cuts Ocelot's right hand off, as well as cutting all the trips connected to Kenneth. The mysterious saviour appears before our very eyes, and it's a goddamn cybernetic ninja. This causes Ocelot to flee like a little bitch, and Kenneth seems to recognise the ninja, but before we can have a conversation, the ninja screams in pain before doing a flip and disappearing. Well, alright then. Snake helps Kenneth Baker up, and Kenneth immediately asks if Snake has talked to the DARPA chief. Snake confirms that he has, and he tells the ArmsTech president that the DARPA chief is dead. Baker tells us that Psycho Mantis tried to get in his head to find out his PAL code, but he resisted because he has implants in his brain. He describes them as psychic insulation, and every single person who knows these codes has the same implants, meaning so did the DARPA chief. That information, mixed with the earlier vision, just muddies the water even more when it comes to the DARPA chief. But that's not important right now. Kenneth confirms that they still got his code. He wasn't trained to resist actual torture. He also tells us that he doesn't have the guard keys to overwrite the detonation code. There was a woman who was thrown in prison alongside him, and she has the keys. Snake correctly assumes that this is the woman that we met earlier, and it turns out that woman was Meryl, the Colonel's niece. Baker says he was in contact with her via codec. She stole it off a guard, and that's how he knows she escaped the prison. But he forgot her codec frequency. However, he does give us a clue. It's on the back of the CD case. Kenneth goes on to tell Snake he needs to find Hal Emmerich. If there's anyone who knows how to stop Metal Gear from launching, it's him. He's most likely being held in the nuclear warhead storage building. Snake questions why Metal Gear Rex was built in the first place, and Baker admits that Arms Tech, under government contract, developed Metal Gear Rex for the US military as a next-generation nuclear delivery system. He claims that it's only for deterrence, as the threat of nuclear war isn't gone. As Baker's health worsens, he gives Snake a disc containing Metal Gear test data and his level 2 card. He also tells us that the ninja was Foxhound's little secret, an experimental genome soldier, and apparently Naomi will know more about it. Furthermore, if the data from the disc goes public, Arms Tech will be finished. Snake questions what he means. Doesn't Metal Gear use currently available technology? Before Kenneth can elaborate, he suddenly suffers a fatal heart attack, just like the DARPA chief. His final words hint at the Pentagon being involved in his death.
Those Pentagon bastards! So, they actually went and did it!
Immediately after his death, Snake calls Campbell and Naomi to tell them about Kenneth. Naomi notices how unusual it is for two people now to die of heart failure within an hour or so. Snake begins to suspect foul play, saying that there's no way it could be a coincidence. Also noting that neither man showed any external injuries apart from Kenneth's broken arm. Campbell tells Snake that he has to continue the mission and find Hal Emmerich. Snake questions Naomi about the cyber ninja, but she's adamant that there's no one matching that description within Foxhound. And that's that. And on the way back through the base, this is when enemies will show up in basement level 2. But if you're super cool and awesome like me, you'll sneak right through. Heading back up to level 1 and up to the catwalk, then over all the way to the right, you'll find a door that leads to a room containing a mine detector. This is going to be very important to your journey. Next up, something that took me way too long to figure out. To find Meryl's codec frequency, pause the game and head down to the online manual option. This will open a digital version of the CD case for the game. Flip that bitch over and Meryl's frequency will be on the back, 140.15. Thank everything that is holy that I'd remembered someone mentioning this exact thing on a YouTube video I'd seen years ago. Now we can finally contact Meryl, who, yes, is the rookie we met in the prison. Snake opens the conversation by complimenting her escape from the prison cell, which tips her off to who we are, and the two introduce themselves. Turns out Meryl is also a massive fangirl of Solid Snake, and once she finds that out, she takes off her balaclava. Snake is somewhat cold, but professional, questioning her motives and pointing out that she's inexperienced for a real combat mission. He tells her to stay focused and follow orders if she wants to survive. Meryl pushes back, saying she can handle herself and refuses to be treated like a burden. Snake notes her nervousness and lack of training, but also recognises her determination. However, there's a sense of trust forming between the two. Snake's pragmatic attitude contrasts with Meryl's desire to prove herself. By the end of the conversation, they agree to cooperate, with Meryl assisting Snake in navigating the base. She tells him that she'll contact him again when she's opened up the cargo door leading to the next section of the base. Another moment of note during this conversation is that we find out that Snake looks identical to Liquid, the leader of the terrorists. There's been a few times leading up to this point where someone has mentioned this. So after waiting a little, she contacts us again to let us know that the door is unlocked. Snake tells her again to be careful and not to move too much. Meryl says, "Nah, it's all good, I'm disguised." But Snake goes and points out that she won't be disguised for long with the way that she walks. But I'm sure he doesn't mean anything by that. Anyway, she tells us the cargo door is like an airlock. It's equipped with infrared sensors, and if we trip any of them, we'll be locked in and poisoned with gas, which would not be very good for Snake's health. Thankfully, I found the thermal goggles earlier, meaning this is gonna be a catwalk. Oh god, it was all a dream. Now that the premonition has been foretold, I should be good. Once again outside, you'll have noticed you entered a very big snowy field, and this is where the mine detector will come in handy, because there's mines. But after moving such a tiny amount, you'll be contacted by a mysterious man with a very unfortunate name.
Just call me Deep Throat.
Anyway, Deep Throat here is the informant of the Watergate scandal. Yes, that Watergate. Anyway, this call is to warn us about a tank that's nearby and waiting to ambush Snake. Snake of course asks who Deep Throat is, but he just says he's one of our fans, and hangs up. By the way, if you don't know what Watergate is, it was a major political scandal back in the United States that led to the resignation of Richard Nixon in 1974. He was the only US president in existence to ever resign from office. 5 men were caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate office complex in Washington, D.C. The burglars were attempting to wiretap phones and steal documents to gather information that could help Nixon's re-election campaign. At first, the White House dismissed the break-in as a third-rate burglary. However, investigative journalist Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein from the Washington Post uncovered connections between the burglars and Nixon's re-election committee. As it was investigated more, it became clear that the senior White House officials had approved and attempted to cover up the burglary, facing almost certain impeachment. Nixon then resigned on August 8, 1974, and Vice President Gerald Ford became the president the next day. But back to the video game. The tank has now appeared to blow us up. The hatch opens up, and a massive tattooed Alaskan man appears. This is Vulcan Raven, a shaman and speaker of ravens. His body is able to withstand freezing temperatures, and he has spiritual abilities. As for this cutscene, nothing much happens in the way of dialogue, but Snake does an insane move to dodge a tank round, and I just had to show you that. Now, getting towards the tank might get you killed once or twice, but don't fret. If you use some chaff grenades, they will disable the tank's aiming systems, making it much harder to hit you. With that taken care of, just run up to it and toss some regular grenades. You'll find them around the area, and possibly also pick some up when exploring before this fight. After what feels like ages, you'll grenade the tank hard enough to defeat it. This will launch the gunner out of the top, and Snake will grab a level 3 keycard off of his body. Raven unfortunately did not go down with the ship, and he tells Liquid not to underestimate Snake. That is a very high compliment, Raven, thank you. Even though this is where Raven goes away, it's only for a while, he will be back. With our new level 3 keycard, we now have access to the nuclear warhead storage building. Oh, something I forgot to mention is that when you defeat a boss, your health gets an upgrade, which is amazing, but also a sign that things are going to get harder. Getting into this place is as simple as crawling under the cargo door. And here we are, the front end of the new area. This place isn't too bad. There's a few guards, a couple cameras, and that's about it. Just like level 1 in the tank hangar, this floor is made to be like the hub area. You use it for getting to the other floors, and that's about it. Oh, and you're also not allowed to use weapons here, because everything will explode. No, that's a lie. They won't explode, but if any of the nuclear warheads are shot, they leak radiation, which is just as bad. Actually, it's worse. It's way worse. But thankfully, I don't have to worry about it because I'm already at the elevator. Now in basement level 1, if you head into the big ass office and then head to the right of the room, you can grab some stun grenades. But more importantly, using your keycard on the first door to the right, you can grab yourself the Nikita launcher and some ammo for it. This thing, just like every other item in the game, will be incredibly useful to you, and is an item that you will need in order to progress in certain areas. Heading now to basement level 2, we can see some items on the other side of some glass. However, to get these items is a bit of a mission. For starters, entering the corridor opposite the elevator, a cutscene will show you that the floor is electrified. Following the cables up and through the roof, we can see that the power box is behind the glass where the items are. So we somehow have to destroy that without touching the electrified floor. Oh, and also, This corridor is filled with gas that slowly kills you. Using your brain for a moment, you'll probably realise that the game must have given you a Nikita for a reason. Once firing it, you get control of the rocket. Controlling this thing does kinda suck though. If you're moving the controller stick in any way, it slows down a shit ton, and after a moment of not touching the stick, it'll just shoot forward. However, you can hold triangle, or Y, which will give you a much better view when controlling the rocket. It might take you a few shots, but eventually you'll wind it around the corners and hit the power box. Remember to keep in mind that this gas is also slowly killing you during this section. You do still have to explore this area though, and after going into the first door on the right, you will find the FAMAS, a very, very good weapon, but very loud. In the room 2 doors down, the one with the camera in it, you will also find the gas mask, which will make your ass sweat much less when navigating this area. You will still lose oxygen, but the gas mask will double the amount of time it takes before it runs out. However, this is in the left side of the inventory slot, and this means having to unequip your keycard to use the gas mask, and unequip your gas mask to use the keycard, which probably won't get you killed, but it is a little annoying. But I'm sure you're wondering what was in the room behind the glass. Nothing exciting really, just a ration and some chaff grenades. I think Kojima decided where to put the good stuff before thinking he should put something in this room. But let's move on. Chucking a chaff to the right end of the T-junction, we can now get through the door just below the camera turret, which will fade you into a decontamination chamber, where you hear some soldiers telling someone to freeze before getting slaughtered. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see what's on the other side. Oh! Sucks to be those guys, huh? This bit genuinely made me so tense when I played through it. The atmosphere and the way it's presented creates such a palpable moment of tension. Getting to the end of the gore hallway, we see a live action performance of The Exorcist. Oh, never mind, it's just the ninja again. Anyway, he fucks off into the next room, so we give chase. The room that the ninja went into is where Emmerich resides. We know this because he's currently pissing himself in the corner. But you know what? That's so understandable. Snake steps in because he's against staining carpets with piss. And he's all like, "Hey, Cyber Ninja, how about you make someone your size piss?" Wait, no, that's not right. How about you start pissing? No, that's even worse. Fuck it, let's just fight. The reason these two are fighting is because the ninja is trying to kill Snake, and Snake doesn't want to die. This is true, but the reason the ninja wants to fight is that he's heard of Snake, and wants Snake to make him feel alive again. Before you do anything in this fight, make sure you're not using any of your weapons. The ninja will deflect everything, even with the new FAMAS you picked up. The fight has 3 stages. Stage 1 is pure melee combat. The ninja will just beat the shit out of you, and that's the end of it. Stage 2 is when he begins using his cloak and tries using the element of surprise. But you can easily counter this with thermal goggles. Phase 3 is the hardest, of course. This is because the ninja will now start using more powers like shockwaves and using his cloak to zip around you when he's close. With all that said, once you figure out the strategy, the fight is super easy. As you can see here, if you keep the partitions between you and him, once he hops over one, you get a chance to hit him with your CQC combo, which will do a nice chunk of damage. But don't stand still after the combos. He retaliates immediately with a roundhouse or a jump kick. And my final piece of advice, get away from him when you defeat him. You may think you're safe, but he will let off one final shockwave, which killed me after I'd already beaten him. I was so pissed.
There we go, surely that's it. Yes, it's it, thank God. Oh, fuck! No. Oh my God. Please tell me I don't have to do the whole thing over again. Please. That took so long. Oh, for fuck.
After the very intense and close quarters fight, the ninja asks if Snake remembers him. And hearing that, Snake's light bulb turns on. But before we, as the player, learn any more, the ninja screams out in pain and begins violently shaking. He exclaims about some medicine before collapsing to the floor. This bit is also quite eerie as the ninja begins smashing his head to the floor like the mother in Hereditary, but then he just runs off. See you later, dude! After the fight, Snake contacts the Colonel to report that the mysterious cyborg ninja is Grey Fox, Snake's former comrade from Foxhound. In the past, Snake had killed Grey Fox in Zanzibar. This is a whole lore video by itself, and it goes deep. This lore originates from the game Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, which came out in 1990. Essentially, Grey Fox was trying to stop Snake's mission in Zanzibar, so Snake unfortunately had to fight him to finish his mission, and he left Grey Fox for dead after beating his ass. Anyway, Snake confirms with certainty that the mysterious cyborg ninja is Grey Fox. Campbell refuses to believe it, reminding Snake that Grey Fox died in Zanzibar. But Naomi steps in, explaining that Grey Fox should have died, but didn't. She reveals that after the Zanzibar mission, the body of a fallen soldier was recovered and secretly used in gene therapy experiments conducted by Dr. Clark, Naomi's predecessor at Foxhound's medical division. Clark's team revived Grey Fox's body, fitted him with a prototype exoskeleton, and kept him sedated and experimented on for 4 years. These experiments laid the groundwork for the Genome Soldier project, the genetically enhanced troops that Snake is now facing. Snake angrily questions why Naomi didn't disclose this earlier, to which she responds that it was classified information. When Snake presses her further, she avoids answering him directly. Campbell then asks what happened to Grey Fox after the project. Naomi says the official records list him as having died in a lab explosion, the same one that killed Dr. Clark. Campbell reluctantly accepts this answer, but questions why Grey Fox has returned now. Snake explains that during the fight, the ninja seemed confused about his identity, but seemed determined to fight Snake again, most likely to the death. Naomi, disturbed, asks if Snake wants to kill him. Snake doesn't want to, but that might be what Grey Fox truly wants. Right, let's bring Emmerich out of the closet. Being that he is terrified, he mistakes Snake for one of the terrorists, but Snake convinces him otherwise and begins questioning him about the Metal Gear and its true purpose. Emmerich, believing Rex was designed as a mobile missile defense platform, insists that it was for intercepting nuclear missiles only, a purely defensive system. Snake, having already learned that that's not true, confronts him, revealing that Rex is capable of launching nuclear warheads, and that the terrorists intend to use it to fire a live nuke. Emmerich explains that while he developed Rex's mechanical and robotic systems, other departments handled the armament. He then goes on to describe Rex's features. Rex has a Vulcan cannon, a laser, and a railgun developed from miniaturized SDI technology. SDI was a proposed US anti-ballistic missile system, first announced by President Ronald Reagan in 1983, intended to protect the United States from a nuclear attack, primarily from the Soviet Union. Nicknamed Star Wars, it aimed to use a multi-layered defense including ground and space-based systems like lasers to intercept and destroy incoming missiles. This idea was meant to remove the threat of mutual assured destruction by having what would essentially be a shield around the Earth. The project did receive funding, but was never fully implemented, and its relevance disappeared after the collapse of the Soviet Union and all of the Cold War scare faded away. But back to the fictional weapon, Snake deduces that Rex was designed to launch nuclear missiles without detection, bypassing all existing nuclear treaty verification systems. Emmerich connects this to work done by Rivermore National Labs, who were experimenting with virtual nuclear testing using NOVA and NIF laser fusion systems. These programs, he explains, could model a new type of nuclear weapon, but required real-world launch data, the very purpose of the Shadow Moses exercise. Realizing his research was exploited for nuclear warfare, Emmerich collapses in guilt. He reveals his family's tragic connection to atomic history. His grandfather worked on the Manhattan Project, and his father was born on the day of the Hiroshima bombing. He laments that his family seems cursed to perpetuate this cycle of nuclear development. Emmerich confirms that Rex is stored in the underground maintenance base north of the communications tower, which is also where the detonation code override system is. He warns us that the terrorists must be nearly ready to fire, because they have not requested help in hours. Snake and Emmerich agree that if the override fails, Rex must be destroyed. Emmerich insists on helping, but Snake tells him to stay behind and provide support remotely. Emmerich reveals he also has stealth camouflage technology, which will allow him to move through the base undetected. Before Snake departs, Emmerich suggests a codename for himself, now calling himself Otacon, short for Otaku Convention, which is an anime convention in Japan. Otacon is a massive weeb. He also gives Snake a level 4 security card and his radio frequency, which is 141.12. Snake then contacts Meryl, only to hear her come under fire and lose contact. Is she dead? Is she alive? We don't know. A final piece of note before the end of this cutscene. Otacon reflects on his idealism. He became a scientist because he wanted to create robots inspired by Japanese animation. He never wanted to make weapons of war. Now burdened by this realization, he vows never to take part in destruction again. This is what explains how he aids you during the game. Using his stealth camouflage, Otacon can bring you health and ammo throughout the game, which is amazing. Next up, we have to find Meryl. But where is she? I hear you desperately asking. Well, if we head back down to basement level 1, you may notice how there's 3 guards in this area instead of just 2. You may also notice that one of them sounds funny when they walk. But let's investigate closer. Oh shit! Meryl, where are you going? This is gonna sound bad, but you have to follow Meryl into the ladies' room. She somehow disappears, but you can see that she has changed out of her disguise. Upon closer inspection, Meryl ambushes us, and the following cutscene marks the beginning of one of the greatest character-driven relationships in the game. It starts off lighthearted, with Meryl teasing Snake that it's the second time she's now caught the legendary soldier off guard. But Snake immediately notes that she couldn't have kept her disguise for long. Meryl says, "Nuh-uh, I've been wearing it and walking around freely for ages. I just had to take it off because it smells like blood." This might sound like an offhand comment, but it's actually a small but very telling sign of her discomfort with the brutal environment. Snake notices a painted foxhound tattoo on her arm, and through it, we learn more about Meryl's past. She tells Snake that she admired Foxhound back when it wasn't run by terrorists. She looked up to the heroes of that era, including Snake, as well as her uncle, the Colonel. But Snake rejects the idea of heroism in war.
There are no heroes in war. All the heroes I know are either dead or in prison, one or the other.
Meryl still calls him a hero, but Snake insists that he fights only for himself, admitting that the only time he truly feels alive is when he's on the battlefield, facing death. But she challenges that, suggesting that maybe he's addicted to war itself. They focus back on the mission, and Snake explains the Metal Gear Rex situation to Meryl, and how the only way to stop it is to either destroy Metal Gear itself, or use the 3 PAL keycards to override the detonation code. Meryl then makes one of the cards appear out of thin air. She says it was just in one of the pockets of her disguise. Unfortunately, she doesn't know where the other 2 keys might be. When Snake reveals that Rex is housed in an underground base to the north, Meryl insists on joining him. Snake, again, doubts her combat experience, but when Meryl whips out her massive fucking Desert Eagle, Snake thinks that maybe she can handle herself. Before they get going, Meryl opens up to Snake about her motivations. Her father, also soldier, died in action when she was a child, and she joined the military to understand him and the life that he led. But now, after witnessing the horrors on Shadow Moses, she realizes that she's been living in denial. She's been following an ideal rather than her own convictions, and tells Snake that she's ready to face who she really is and find her own purpose. Snake warns her that this is nothing like a training mission. This is real war. There's no heroes, only survivors. So Meryl locks in, gives Snake her security card she found, and tells him to follow her. Stepping out of the bathroom, we're once again thrown into a horror game. The guards have disappeared, and the music has stopped. But I'm sure when we get into the commander's room, it's all going to be okay. Meryl, why are you standing there like a freak? Let's go.
Head. Oh, it hurts.
Well, that can't be good. I'd offer you some ibuprofen, but I don't have any. Keeping with the eerie tone, the camera briefly cuts to disorienting shots of the commander's room ahead, as if the characters are being watched. The atmosphere in this scene is so good. The tension and psychological unease is daunting, and the game's eerie sound design and camera work just adds to this feeling. When Meryl does finally stand, she gets creepy. Her posture stiffens, her expression goes blank, and her voice takes on a strangely flat, hypnotic tone. As she walks to the door, she addresses Snake with mock formality.
Come on, Mr. Foxhound. The commander is waiting.
Okay, sure thing, Meryl. Oh, this place is nice. In case you didn't already have goosebumps, if you go into first-person mode in this room, this happens.
I can see the gas mask on this motherfucker. Look. Oh, that's... Oh, that's freaky as fuck.
Yeah, fuck that. After a while of exploring this room, the game says it's time for another cutscene. Meryl points her huge desert eagle at Snake's face and does this.
How do you like me?
What the?
Do you like me? Hold me, Snake.
What's wrong?
Oh, hurry. Make love to me.
Unsurprisingly, Snake is very surprised by this. It's then revealed to us that Psycho Mantis is floating right behind Meryl. I'm sure you guessed, but it's been him mind controlling her. The Colonel interrupts to warn Snake not to shoot Meryl. Yeah, I mean, I really don't think you needed to tell me that, but fine. When it comes to knocking Meryl out, you will have to beat on her a little bit, giving her a few 3-hit combos, or giving her a bit of a flip, or, if you're feeling dangerous, you could try the most risky option, which is choking her out. However, the reason this is risky is because instead of knocking her out, you could do this.
Snake.
Oh my god, I just snapped her neck. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Meryl.
And that's never good. After knocking Meryl out, possibly the most iconic cutscene in gaming history takes place. Hideo Kojima's fascination with breaking the fourth wall and blurring the boundary between the player and the game is born here. After Psycho Mantis reveals himself, Snake remains skeptical of his powers. Mantis, insulted by Snake's doubt, decides to prove his psychokinetic abilities in a way that directly involves the player. This creepy bastard begins his mind reading by commenting on the player's playstyle, saying things such as, "You're a careless man if you've been spotted a lot," or commenting on how good Snake is at eluding traps if you've not been caught out by many of them. He then steps it up a notch. This motherfucker reads the PlayStation's memory card. Like, the actual saved game data that is stored on the card. If you're playing on the original PlayStation, he will comment on specific games that you have installed, like Castlevania or As Your Dreams. Not only that, but he'll mention you're a fan of specific genres if you have a few games installed that are in that genre, like action games or role-playing games. But there's more. He will also comment on how much you've saved the game, pointing out if you're reckless or methodical with your saves. But there is even more. Mantis will also command you to
Put your controller on the floor.
After saying this, he will make the controller vibrate like it's about to explode. I'm so serious when I say this, but I have never seen my controller vibrate so hard for so long. Of course, if you do listen and put the controller on the floor or your desk, the vibrating will make it slightly move from its original position. In doing this, Mantis doesn't just move the controller, but he demonstrates that his powers transcend the screen, directly manipulating the player's physical world. What could have been a gimmick instead of being one of gaming's earliest and most effective examples of meta interaction perfectly embodies Kojima's philosophy that the player is part of the fiction. This game is a fucking masterpiece. Right as you begin the fight, Mantis fucks with you once more. Like me, this might have you questioning what that was, but this is another meta fourth wall break. When TVs used to be disconnected from power, the screen would show this, but with the word video in the corner. But talking about the actual fight now, in the first stage, Mantis floats above the ground, dodging bullets by using his psychic abilities without breaking a sweat. The reason he can do this is because he can read Snake's mind, which really means he can read your button presses, and will act accordingly to what you do. At this stage, the player cannot damage him conventionally. I know I said the previous things were iconic, but this is the moment of the game. The way that you get past Mantis's mind reading is you have to switch the controller from port 1 to port 2. The original PlayStation had 2 separate ports for controllers. However, when playing the Master Collection, you need to press L1 and R1, or LB and RB, to open the menu. In that menu, go to Controller Settings, Controller Connection, and hit Connect as Player 2 instead of Player 1. I'm sure I don't need to tell you why this is cool, but being able to fight back in real life against a video game boss is revolutionary. Anyway, once you do that, you can finally fight back in-game. This leads us to Stage 2. Mantis summons floating furniture and just pelts that shit at you. Getting hit in the face by an armchair doesn't feel good, I can tell you that. When it comes to the best way to fight back, I found it easiest to try and predict where he was going to go and then punching him. Rinse and repeat until his third and final stage. When you rip half of his health bar away, Mantis will once again possess Meryl, meaning you have to knock her out again. However, this time round it's trickier, as Mantis will also fight back during this time. Once she is knocked out, Mantis will comment on how powerful Snake is to be able to resist his power, but he claims that Meryl is Snake's weak point, and controls her one final time, ordering her to paint a Picasso with her brains. Thankfully, our quick thinking doesn't allow that to happen, and we knock her out for a third time. There is no way that she isn't concussed at this point. Mantis, now being very upset and confused, enters his third and final stage, which adds another projectile move to his arsenal. He may also give himself a shield of chairs during this fight. Give yourself enough distance not to get whacked, and use your SOCOM to line up a shot or two. After a very, very grueling battle, Mantis will finally go down. Right after he does, Snake contacts the Colonel to confirm that Meryl is safe. Campbell thanks him, and Naomi questions Snake's motives for saving her, asking whether it was for the mission or for personal affection. Snake insists that he just doesn't want to see any woman die in front of him, but Naomi challenges his emotional detachment, pointing out his history of killing, and Snake accepts her criticism quietly, hinting that he does have some buried guilt. With the call over, Snake approaches the dying freak. As he does, the tone turns reflective. Mantis acknowledges Snake's cleverness in using the other port and admit that he failed to foresee his own defeat. Snake replies,
"A strong man doesn't need to read the future. He makes his own."
Mantis then reveals how to reach Metal Gear's underground base. Snake must go through a hidden door behind the bookcase because the surface path is blocked by glaciers. Removing his mask, Mantis opens up about his backstory. He recounts a life defined by trauma and revulsion. Born with immense psychic powers, he discovered at a very young age that he could read the thoughts of others, including his father, who despised him for causing his mother's death during childbirth. When he glimpsed the hatred festering in his father's heart, the boy lost control, igniting his village in flames and killing everyone, including his father.
That's when my future disappeared. I lost my past as well.
From that moment on, Mantis wandered the world as a psychic assassin, joining Foxhound under Liquid's command. He admits that he never believed in Liquid's revolutionary ideas. He simply wanted an outlet for his hatred, a justification for violence. In his own words, every mind he read was filled with the same primal obsession, the desire to pass on genes, to preserve oneself through reproduction. He sees war and desire as part of the same biological machine, a system driven by instinct rather than reason. But in Snake, Mantis sees a soldier who exists outside the normal flow of human connection, just like him.
You're the same as us. We have no past, no future. We live in the moment. That's our only purpose.
This parallel between the two characters underscores one of the game's deepest themes, the dehumanization of soldiers. Both Mantis and Snake are men stripped of normal identity, existing only through combat and the mission. When Meryl butts in to call Mantis a monster, Snake interrupts her, telling her to let him speak. This moment of compassion illustrates Snake's ability to recognize humanity even in his enemies. It's a subtle act of empathy that humanizes Snake beyond the archetype of a hardened soldier. Mantis, in turn, calls Snake worse than himself, accusing him of embodying the same cold detachment that he despises. But his tone is sort of admiring, and he tells Snake that the world is a more interesting place with people like him in it. Before dying, Mantis makes one final connection. He tells Snake that he read Meryl's mind and saw that Snake occupies a large place in her heart. But his final act is asking Snake to put his mask back on so he can die free from the noise of everyone's thoughts. Then, for the first time, he uses his power to help someone, opening the secret passage for Snake. He dies quietly, finally at peace, and his last words suggest that empathy was what he had sought all along.
This is the first time I've ever used my power to help someone. It's strange. It feels kind of nice.
The aftermath brings the scene back to Earth. Meryl expresses shame at being manipulated, and Snake gently tells her to learn from it and not to doubt herself. She then asks him some personal questions.
What's your name? Your real name?
A name means nothing on the battlefield.
How old are you?
Old enough to know what death looks like.
Any family?
No, but I was raised by many people.
Is there anyone you like?
I've never been interested in anyone else's life.
Her final observation cuts to the core of Snake's character. She calls him a sad, lonely man. This is why this section of the game is so important. Mantis's death marks a turning point. It's the moment the story transitions from the tactical espionage to philosophical introspection, a staple for Hideo Kojima's games. After this, Snake's journey increasingly focuses on questions of identity, purpose, and humanity. But continuing on, we head through the secret door, and that leads us to a small hallway with another door at the end. Going through that door will take us back outside, where Meryl tells us that she'll take point again. This transitional area is pretty cool. It has motherfucking wolf dogs patrolling around. The atmosphere for this section is incredible. You can hear the wind howling as much as you hear the wolves doing the same. However, the dogs are hostile towards Snake, but it's completely up to you if you want to kill them. Eventually, and maybe with a bit of help from the thermal goggles to see where you're going, you'll find a small crawl space that'll lead you back to Meryl, who has now made a puppy friend. This is a lovely detail that further contrasts Meryl's much more positive and compassionate character to Snake's cold and hardened demeanour. I was hoping that I could pet the dog, but unfortunately not. Moving on, Snake and Meryl enter a new area, a very imposing, Maze Runner looking hallway, ending with a humongous building towering over the pair. Meryl lets us know that this area is covered in mines, so we're going to have to follow in her footsteps because the radar is jammed, meaning that we can't use the mine detector. After she effortlessly walks between the mines, Snake understandably questions how the fuck she just did that, but she claims that when Mantis was in her mind, she was able to see where the mines were placed. Now we just need to trace her path and we'll be golden. Holy shit, Meryl! Unfortunately for us, Sniper Wolf has her sights on Snake. Literally. Meryl reaches for her gun, but Sniper Wolf hits her again, leaving her helpless and bleeding out in the open. Snake tries to move towards her, but Wolf forces him to stay behind cover. Meryl realizes that Wolf is using her as bait. She wants Snake to move out into the open. Meryl urges Snake to leave her and admits her inexperience. Faced with the reality of death, she understands how brutal and senseless war really is. She pleads for Snake to survive and not to give up on people. a plea that connects back to Snake's own emotional detachment. This moment begins to humanize him, showing how Meryl's compassion and courage awaken something beyond his conditioning as a soldier. When Snake's codec rings, Campbell and Naomi confirm his fears. The attacker is Sniper Wolf, the deadliest marksman in Foxhound. Naomi explains that Wolf is a woman who can wait
Hours, days, or weeks.
for a perfect shot. She's someone with near superhuman patience and precision. This brief exchange adds to Wolf's mythic presence in the story. A member of Foxhound, Wolf was raised amid constant warfare in Kurdistan, where she learned the art of sniping from a young age. She represents a toll of endless conflict, a person shaped entirely by violence and survival. Again, bringing up the theme of dehumanizing soldiers. Campbell warns Snake that the only way to counter her is to give her a taste of her own medicine. We need a sniper rifle of our own. Despite the danger, Snake refuses to retreat. His determination to save Meryl at any cost stands in stark contrast to his cold genetic fatalism introduced earlier in the game, where Naomi and others suggest that Snake's actions are dictated by his soldier's genes. When Naomi implies that his heroism contradicts his nature, Snake rejects the idea outright, saying he doesn't care what his genes say. He acts on instinct and choice, not programming. This conversation brings up that theme of nature versus free will another time. Snake is engineered to be the perfect soldier, yet here he chooses compassion and risk over self-preservation. As the codec call ends, Snake sets off to find a sniper rifle, an act of defiance that cements both his emotional growth and his connection to Meryl. Meanwhile, Meryl's collapse marks a turning point in her arc, the moment her illusions about heroism are shattered, and she begins to understand the true cost of war. After thinking for a minute, I figured Otacon might know where to find a sniper. He's been here for ages after all. And my gut feeling was right, because Otacon informs us that there's a rifle in the second floor basement of the tank hangar.
Second floor basement of the tank hangar. I have to go all the way back there?
Don't worry, Snake, I have this place memorized at this point. So after making sure there's not a guard standing in our way, we get the thermal goggles on our face and crawl through some lasers, all to get our hands on a sniper rifle.
You got a PSG-1. You can use that against Sniper Wolf. Hurry up and save Meryl.
Yes, sir. Now that we're back to the hallway, and with a sniper rifle of our own, we can fight back against Sniper Wolf. But because I didn't get the diazepam, aiming this thing is one of the most difficult things in the game. Also, whenever she hits you, the scope goes fucking AWOL, and you have to take like 5 business days to readjust. Also, her hitbox is really messy. Sometimes you'll fire a shot that clearly should have hit her, but won't. Or one that shouldn't have hit her, but does. As far as advice goes that I can give you, if you don't have the diazepam, just keep baiting her to shoot by popping in and out of cover. As soon as she does, whip the sniper out and take a shot. You might have to take a couple of hits, and they're gonna really hurt, but eventually you'll land your final shot and Sniper Wolf will go down. You may have already noticed, but Meryl is gone. Someone has taken her away. Unfortunately, we don't know if she's alive or dead. After a minute of gathering supplies, we walk over to the only door available to us, but upon arriving, the alarm goes off and we get ambushed. Turns out, 20 bullets to the chest isn't enough to kill the sniper. She commands Snake to toss his weapon, and he's really in no position to refuse, so he does. The two then exchange a quick back and forth.
You are a fool to come back here. Stupid man.
A lady sniper, huh?
Didn't you know that 2/3 of the world's greatest assassins are women? Do you want to die now? Or after your female friend? Which will it be?
At least this proves that Meryl is still alive. However, Wolf is fully aware of Snake's connection to her, but Snake doesn't show any fear. He tells Wolf bluntly that he will only die after he kills her. Wolf steps closer. She caresses Snake's face, then scratches his cheek with her nails, drawing blood. She's marked him as hers, a personal target. This act shows us that Wolf doesn't just kill for duty, but for the emotional ritual of the hunt, and this is where her connection with Snake begins. But that's too much talking. One of the soldiers then knocks Snake out, and he's taken away. We're then taken to some sort of medical room, and in this room is where Liquid talks directly to Snake for the first time, and the dialogue immediately reveals that their connection runs far deeper than professional rivalry. We find out that Solid Snake and Liquid Snake are brothers, both the sons of Big Boss. Wolf asks if Liquid needs Snake's DNA, to which he confirms he does. But why? Well, the Genome Soldiers are experiencing mutations, and Snake's DNA is required to correct them. However, he also reveals that their ultimate goal is to obtain Big Boss's DNA, implying that Snake's DNA is only a partial solution. Wolf cynically remarks that the American government won't concede to Foxhound's demands. She calls them hypocrites who care more about politics than human life. Liquid, as well as probably most other people on the planet, agree, saying that the US fears exposure of Metal Gear Rex. It's revealed to us that Snake is now strapped to a revolving interrogation bed. Liquid examines him closely, remarking on their resemblance and calling him little brother, though he does admit uncertainty as to which of them was born first. Liquid then receives an urgent call. He learns that the US government still refuses to negotiate. Frustrated, he orders the nuclear launch to proceed in 10 hours, declaring that they will go down in history. He then fucks off to oversee the launch preparations, leaving Ocelot in charge of Snake, warning him not to screw up like with the DARPA chief, referring to how Ocelot accidentally killed the chief during his interrogation. Ocelot defends himself, explaining that the DARPA chief's mental defenses were reinforced by hypnotherapy. They also discuss the cyborg ninja, who, in the past couple hours, has killed a shit ton of men and sliced off Ocelot's hand. Liquid suspects a spy is among them, and notes that with Psycho Mantis dead, as well as Baker and Octopus both gone, they are now dangerously short-staffed. Ocelot warns Snake that Wolf has a habit of becoming emotionally attached to her prey before killing them. Now alone with Snake, Ocelot exudes confidence and is disturbingly amused to be able to torture him. He asks how he's feeling, and Snake retorts with his trademark sarcasm.
Not bad. Caught a nice nap on this revolving bed of yours.
Ocelot begins questioning Snake about the optical disc given to him by President Baker before his death, which contains confidential Metal Gear data. He demands to know whether Snake made a copy or holds other keycards, but Snake refuses to answer, prompting Ocelot to prepare him for his infamous torture device, an electric current wired directly into Snake's metal bed. Ocelot frames the torture as a game, telling Snake that he must resist the pain by repeatedly enduring shocks. If he gives up, Meryl dies. From the player's perspective, this electricity will quickly chip off your health bar, but hitting B or circle will heal you a very small amount. In short, you have to spam the button faster than the torture device can kill you, which I think is awesome. This act of Snake's willpower is also an act of the player's willpower to beat the torture. This moral decision does also have consequences. Meryl will die if you choose to give up, and she won't be present for the rest of the game. After surviving 4 rounds of this torture, Snake will be taken back to a cell. The same cell where Foxhound have been keeping the DARPA chief's body. Now that we have a moment to contact the Colonel, we do, and Snake confronts him. He's had enough of being kept in the dark, and Snake accuses Campbell and the US government of hiding the real purpose of Metal Gear Rex. The Colonel hesitates, then reluctantly admits that he knew, but then claims that the President himself hadn't even been briefed yet. The project was classified under a need-to-know basis. Campbell explains that the US and Russia are scheduled to sign the START 3 nuclear disarmament treaty the following day. Public knowledge of an active nuclear weapons project would destroy America's credibility and possibly collapse the agreement. Even a subcritical test, which is a nuclear test without detonation, was controversial enough at the time. Naomi and Campbell's admissions reveal a deep moral rot behind our mission. The government is willing to risk the lives of the hostages and Snake himself to preserve plausible deniability and protect the country's global image. Snake calls them out, accusing Campbell of betraying his duty and hiding behind patriotism to justify unconstitutional military research. Snake refuses to let it go and pushes further. If the situation is that desperate, why not meet the terrorist demands? Foxhound only wants Big Boss's remains in exchange for standing down, but Campbell hesitates again. Naomi explains that giving up the remains would expose the existence of the Genome Army, a secret project in which Big Boss's genetic material was used to enhance ordinary soldiers. Publicly, the president has condemned all genetic engineering programs, so the truth would cause a global scandal. It's at this point where Snake's trust is completely broken. He then mentions something disturbing. The corpse of the DARPA chief already appears days old despite only dying a few hours ago. His blood has also been completely drained. Naomi speculates it might be a way to slow down decomposition, but Snake feels that something isn't right. There's an underlying mystery here. They then shift back to the immediate threat. Snake confirms that the terrorists already have both nuclear detonation codes, meaning Metal Gear can now launch. Snake explains to Campbell how the failsafe works, and how the launch can be aborted. However, being locked in a cell doesn't help his search for the 3 power keycards. Campbell orders him to forget about the keys. The only option left is to destroy Metal Gear entirely before it can launch. He then finishes the scene with a line that captures the entire tone of the situation.
Sorry to have to lay it all in your lap, but you're all I've got. Bust out of there and get to the communications tower.
With that call over, we immediately call out our bestie, Otacon. Snake explains to him that he's locked in a cell, and asks for some help. He then tells Otacon that there's a torture machine nearby, and that's enough for him to know where to look. While waiting, the guard comes up to us and says that we have another appointment with Ocelot. So, we're forced back into the torture room. Ocelot tells us about all of the wars he's fought in, and reveals that he was known and feared as Shalashaska, a name given to him by the Afghan guerrillas during the Soviet invasion. The name is a mispronunciation of the Russian word sharashka, which is a slang term for a shady, hastily assembled organization, usually referring to a secret research facility in the Gulag system. Some explanations of this nickname also add the word shashka, like the Russian saber, as an example of his amazing fighting skills. Ocelot gives us some more information. He was trained by the Russian GRU, which, if you don't know, is the Foreign Military Intelligence Agency of Russia, which was founded in 1918 and still continues to function to this day. They're responsible for gathering intel on foreign military armies, defense industries, and global military movements, as well as conducting covert operation and combined traditional espionage with modern cyber and special operations. During the Cold War, for example, the GRU was one of the most secretive Soviet agencies. It ran extensive spy networks across NATO countries and played a major role in military strategy and nuclear intelligence gathering. Anyway, we're put through some more rounds of torture before Ocelot starts yapping again. He complains about the state of Russia. He says that even though the 20th century has had its share of problems, at least they had an ideology. Snake points out that they're struggling between freedom and order, and pushes this by saying that because of the struggle, a new spirit of nationalism has been born. Ocelot replies to this by telling Snake that Liquid is close friends with the current head of the Spetsnaz, and he has agreed to purchase Metal Gear Rex. Turns out, this is also the reason that the Hind D helicopter is here. That was considered a down payment for Rex. This cutscene is also the one where we find out Ocelot's motivation to be involved in this shit. He wants Russia to be reborn and to lead a new world order. And then we're sent back to prison. With a few minutes to kill, you can choose to call Campbell again, which will trigger a piece of substantial dialogue. But to start it off, Snake tells Naomi his arm hurts, so she ups the amount of painkillers in his blood, which is just something that she can do. It also adds another real-world interaction to the game. Naomi tells the player to hold the controller up to their arm, simulating the injection of the painkillers. But let's get to the substantial stuff. Snake asks Naomi to talk to him so he can find something else to focus on other than the pain. When Snake brings up family, Naomi admits that it's a painful subject. Snake reveals that he also has no family, except for one man who claimed to be his father. The same man that Snake killed, Big Boss. Colonel Campbell confirms this shocking truth. revealing that only he and Snake knew what really happened in Zanzibar 6 years prior. Snake says Big Boss wanted to die, and coldly remarks that
some people just need killing.
Naomi calls it patricide, linking to the trauma that Psycho Mantis had mentioned earlier, and Snake agrees that it's one of the emotional scars that he carries. Naomi then opens up about her own past, saying that she never had a real family either, only an older brother who wasn't related by blood, but cared for her and put her through school. He too is also dead. The conversation shifts when Naomi asks if Snake has anyone in his life, a woman or any friends. Snake says it's hard to trust anyone after so many wars. He calls Campbell a friend and also mentions Frank Yeager, Grey Fox, Big Boss's most trusted lieutenant and the only Foxhound member ever given the codename Fox. Snake explains that they fought first as comrades in Outer Heaven, then as enemies in Zanzibar. Despite trying to kill one another, Snake insists that war doesn't necessarily end friendship. They were just professionals on opposite sides. Outer Heaven could be a video all by itself, but I will give you as short of a rundown as I can. Outer Heaven is a militarized nation and mercenary state founded by Big Boss. Its purpose was to create a haven for soldiers, a place where warriors could live free from the control of the governments. A world where a soldier's worth was defined purely by their skill in battle, rather than obedience to a nation's agenda. All of this lore comes from the original Metal Gear created in 1987, and Outer Heaven serves as the main setting for that game. In that game, Grey Fox is already a legend in Foxhound, and he's the first to learn about Outer Heaven. His final transmission back to the base consists of just the words Metal Gear. Solid Snake is then sent in, just a rookie at the time. He finds Grey Fox in a cell, breaks him out, learns about Metal Gear, finds out Big Boss is the leader of Outer Heaven, and then kills him and destroys Metal Gear, finishing the mission. The same goes for Zanzibar. Considering that is another whole game, I could make a video purely on that. Zanzibar is where Metal Gear 2, made in 1990, takes place. By this point in the timeline, Grey Fox has switched sides and is working with Big Boss in another rogue nation. It's another heavily fortified state, this time in central Alaska. Snake is sent in to tear it all down. When Grey Fox and Solid Snake reunite, Snake does not want to battle, but Fox, loyal to Big Boss, doesn't give him a choice. The two friends then beat the shit out of each other in the middle of a minefield, and Snake leaves Fox for dead. He also fights Big Boss for a second time, sets him on fire, and then the entire base blows up, killing him. Again. Well, that was a bit of a long tangent, but it had to happen for context purposes. Naomi presses Snake about Grey Fox's current violent behaviour as the cyborg ninja, suggesting that it may be due to genetic predisposition. Snake questions her obsession with genes, and Naomi explains that she became a genetic researcher because she never knew her parents and wanted to understand herself through DNA. She hoped studying genetics might reveal who she really was, believing that memories and identity could somehow be traced in one's genetic code. When Snake asks if she can read his fate through his DNA, since she has access to his genetic data, Naomi says she doesn't know. Snake dryly replies that she's a scientist, not a fortune teller, and the conversation ends. Not long after that, the guard watching Snake shits his pants and rushes off. Yes, I am serious. Thankfully, Otacon finally shows up to help us. Well, I say help, but all he does is bring us some food. He thought we might be hungry. Thanks, Otacon, that's really great. But he actually does help. He gives us a level 6 security keycard, which will get us out of the torture room. He then gives us Sniper Wolf's handkerchief, which, surprisingly, will be useful. He describes how, after the terrorists took over Shadow Moses, they planned to kill all the dogs on the base, but Sniper Wolf stopped them, even letting Otacon himself to continue caring for the wolves.
She likes dogs. She must be a good person.
Snake fires back that she's the one who shot Meryl. It's a moment of tension that shows just how differently these two see the world. Otacon's infatuation with Wolf, which is later described as a form of Stockholm Syndrome, humanizes Otacon, but also exposes his vulnerability. But despite the tension, Otacon insists he's doing all he can to help. Snake reminds him of the stakes, and Otacon tells him to continue, and Snake is going to have to pass through the communications tower. Snake demands to be freed, however, the only way to do that is to steal the guard's key. Snake tells Otacon to just take the guard out. Easy. But Otacon panics and refuses.
I'll be killed!
The guard then exits the bathroom, which causes Otacon to run away. Great, now I'm on my own again. However, if we equip the ketchup and lay down on the floor before he comes back, we can trick the guard into thinking Snake is hurt. He will then run into the cell to check on Snake. When he does, get up and beat his ass. Hell yeah, dude, let's get the fuck out of here. Now freely able to move around the torture room, we take back all of our shit, throw a chaff grenade at the security camera, and get the hell out of there. Turns out that the torture room is connected to the cell block where we met Meryl. Makes sense, but it's cool now to be able to see through the door that we couldn't before. Going back to where Meryl was shot, Snake reflects on what happened, clearly traumatized by having to witness it. The ringing of his codec eventually brings him back out of his PTSD-fueled trance. This marks one of the most emotional codec exchanges in the game. Up until now, Snake has been portrayed as a cold, efficient soldier, but Meryl's loss exposes his repressed humanity.
Colonel, I'm sorry.
Listen to me.
I wasn't able to protect her.
For the first time, Snake openly expresses guilt and vulnerability. His voice softens, a rare break from his hardened exterior. He admits that Meryl wasn't ready for battle, that she only joined the military because she wanted to feel closer to her late father. For Snake, Meryl represents the possibility of emotional connection and redemption. Her apparent death hits Snake so hard because she embodies everything he thought he couldn't have. Master Miller then interrupts, telling Snake to stop punishing himself for the past, warning that such self-blame leads to madness. Mei Ling also encourages him. It's too soon to give up hope, and that Meryl might still be alive. Campbell then urges Snake to focus on the mission, to stop Liquid. He insists that's what Meryl would have wanted. Snake agrees, regaining his focus. Then Naomi steps in with a personal question.
Meryl, she's pretty special to you, huh?
Snake hesitantly replies, yes, she's special. This signals an emotional awakening. But Naomi's follow-up and the awkward silence that follows hint that she's just testing him, almost as if she's examining how emotionally human he really is. Campbell then awkwardly shifts the conversation, recalling Naomi's family background. Naomi mentions her grandfather, a Japanese American who became a special undercover investigator for the FBI during J. Edgar Hoover's time in the 1950s. Miller questions her story, pointing out that she previously claimed that she had no family. Naomi stumbles, saying that she only discovered her family history as an adult, long after her grandfather had died. The call then ends with Naomi wishing Snake good luck, and Campbell telling him to stay safe. Continuing now to the door that we were ambushed at, this starts the absolute worst part in the entire game. The difficulty spike for this section is actually shocking, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is where a lot of people shelved the game and never came back to it. In short, it sounds easy. You have to get to the top of this tower whilst shooting the soldiers that chase you up the stairs, with a few soldiers already waiting for you further up. But what makes this so difficult is that there's an infinite amount of soldiers that chase you from the bottom. They also have a shit ton of health. The aiming controls are also really tricky, and whenever you're hit, you get a massive chunk of damage taken from you, as well as being stunned. You also only have however many rations you've saved up before this point, which could be a very small amount, which would mean having to run around the entire game again, gathering more before coming back. I really can't give you much advice for this bit, but what I can say is this. Run all the way back to that area that was filled with gas. Now that you have the level 6 keycard, you will be able to unlock the room containing body armor. This means you take so much less damage. It's so useful. Also, there's 2 boxes in the room where this section starts. Don't forget to pick both of them up. One of them contains a rope, and this will help you out a lot at the end of this section. When you eventually reach the top, hopefully it doesn't take you almost an hour like me, you can grab a few more FAMAS bullets, and a ration next to the ladder leading to the roof. Once reaching the roof of the comms tower, not only will you get an amazing couple shots of the radar dish, but you'll also be ambushed by Liquid in his helicopter. His first order of fucking with you is to blow up the radar dish, which, in turn, destroys the walkway between both the communication towers. Liquid then comes back into view, exclaiming that Snake is gonna die now, but Snake has like 2 more games to get to, so he runs towards the edge of the building and, using his rope, descends. This starts with what is basically a little minigame, wherein you have to rappel down the side of the comms tower, avoiding things like steam pipes and the hail of bullets Liquid is attempting to kill you with. You can also move side to side when rappelling, and also press the X or A button to jump. It's a little annoying, but this section isn't too difficult, and you can quite successfully just spam jump all the way down. Getting to the bottom is enough for Liquid to back off. However, running straight across the walkway will get you absolutely destroyed by the group of soldiers waiting for you. Thankfully, we have the remote-controlled missiles, and with these, we can take out the soldiers. As we approach the end of the bridge, Liquid reappears, so we retreat to the left and get inside, where we find a motherfucking stinger. Oh yeah, baby, now we can shoot that annoying little bastard out of the sky. Exploring our new digs, we find that the staircase leading downstairs has been destroyed, and the elevator is broken. So, we call Otacon again, who says that he's heading our way because he needs to ask us something. Snake questions him, but Otacon is being weird.
Well, you see, I'll ask you when I see you. Bye!
Okay then, you fucking weirdo. As we approach the elevator, Snake hears something and is on high alert. He instinctively whips around the corner with the barrel of his SOCOM ready to blow the brains out of whoever is there. Turns out it's just Otacon though. Apparently he hitched a ride on the back of the truck to get to this tower. Otacon's admiration for Snake once again surfaces here. He calls Snake incredible and a movie hero, reinforcing the ongoing contrast between the soldier he wants to be and the nerd that he actually is. Snake once again rejects this idea, pointing out that in movies, the hero always saves the girl, hinting at his guilt over Meryl. Otacon then reveals that he didn't just follow Snake out of curiosity. He came because there's something deeply personal he wants to understand. In his awkwardness, he asks if soldiers can fall in love. Snake is confused at first, so Otacon clarifies.
Do you think love can bloom, even on a battlefield?
It's one of the most iconic lines in the game for me, and it exposes Otacon's emotional vulnerability. He's fallen in love with Sniper Wolf, but he doesn't know how to process it. He wants validation that love can exist in a world that's defined by violence. And surprisingly, Snake's answer is actually quite gentle and thoughtful. He says that love can bloom anywhere, anytime, but he then adds this.
If you love someone, you have to be able to protect them.
This line directly links to Snake's guilt over Meryl. He believes that he failed her, and his answer feels partly like a confession. Once the emotional moment passes, Snake snaps back to reality. He asks Otacon to help with the elevator. Otacon exclaims that he's not a fighter, and hates being put in danger, but Snake reassures him.
I told you before I don't want to hurt anyone.
I don't want you to either.
This is a great line. It shows that Snake understands Otacon's limits and respects them. So, he agrees to fix the elevator. He also reveals his unique coping mechanism. He says that if he pretends he isn't really there, he stops being afraid. It's almost childlike, but it highlights how out of his depth Otacon truly is. This is the beginning of their bond. For the first time, Snake places real faith in Otacon as an ally. Now that we're alone again, we head to the top of the tower and up the ladder. This leads to another encounter with Liquid in his goddamn helicopter, and he immediately points out their familiar connection again. Snake questions why he keeps calling him his brother, and Liquid parries his question with a cryptic sentence, calling Snake his shadow, and claiming that Snake should ask the father that he killed for answers. This moment deepens the mystery surrounding Snake's origin. Snake demands answers, but Liquid refuses to explain, choosing instead to try and blow up his brother. The boss fight itself, though, is a piece of piss. It's so easy. Throughout all 3 phases of the fight, you just need to aim the stinger, lock on, and fire. That's it. In phase 1, Liquid will circle the tower at high altitude and fire bursts of machine gun rounds, occasionally swooping in for strafing runs. In Phase 2, Liquid will start using missiles. And in Phase 3, Liquid will start circling the tower very close and starts unpredictably firing at you. All throughout this, the strategy to defeat him is to just be on the move constantly and fire your stinger whenever possible. After enough rockets, the Hind D will begin to explode, and Liquid loses control. As the aircraft falls, Liquid curses Snake before the helicopter erupts into a massive fireball.
See you in hell, Liquid. That takes care of the cremation.
Right after the fight, Otacon calls Snake. Strangely, the elevator seems to have just kind of fixed itself. Otacon didn't repair it, and no one should have been able to activate it remotely, but it's moving now. With this miracle, we can finally start heading towards the underground maintenance base, which leads directly to the Metal Gear Rex hangar. Snake is about to enter the deepest, most secret part of the facility. With that in mind, let's go. Otacon calls us back, remembering something important that he forgot to tell Snake. His lab originally had 5 stealth camouflage prototypes. He took one, and has since been back to the lab. The other 4 suits are missing. He also brings up something eerie about the elevator. Despite weighing only 135 pounds, the elevator's 650 pound weight limit alarm triggered when Otacon first got on. But that could only happen if...
Look out, Snake! The guys who stole my stealth prototypes are in there with you!
Oh shit. I love this reveal so much. It happens in a way where you don't guess what's coming right until the same point the characters realise. It transforms a calm, transitional elevator ride into a very sudden, claustrophobic ambush, forcing the player into a desperate close quarters fight. Adding to this desperation is the fact that the game doesn't give you a chance to breathe after the boss fight that just happened. The fight itself is also quite tricky. The soldiers never exit stealth, and you have to look a little closer when aiming to hit them. Coming out of the elevator, we head towards an exit from this dreadful building. We step out into another snow-covered field and hear more wolves in the distance, which must mean that Sniper Wolf is nearby. I think I found her. Thankfully, this doesn't kill Snake. He's Snake calls Otacon to question if there were any other camouflage prototypes, but Otacon confirms that there were just 5. None of which should still be in action since we killed the men wearing the other 4. But Snake can't see whoever just shot him, meaning that Sniper Wolf is just that good at hiding. Once he realises what's happening, Otacon begs Snake not to kill Sniper Wolf, now directly conflicting with Snake's mission. He tries to snap Otacon out of it by calling her a merciless killer, but Wolf interrupts, confirming that she has eyes on Snake despite the storm. She taunts him, boasting about her skill and about the natural superiority of female snipers. Otacon jumps back in to plead that Wolf doesn't have to kill Snake, but she tells him not to get in between a wolf and its prey. She tells Snake that she's going to send him a love letter, a bullet straight to the heart, showing off the twisted romanticism that reflects her intimacy with the hunt. But this is personal now for Snake. He won't let Wolf get away again, not after she shot Meryl. Mechanically, this fight is the same as the previous one with Wolf, just another sniper battle. But the openness of the field does fall into your favour this time around. Wolf will still slip in and out of cover, meaning that you have to time your shots and be patient. But because this is the second time you're fighting her, you know her and your rifle much better than before, making it a lot easier to predict and control your aiming pattern. If you're quick enough to follow her from tree to tree, you can get through this section without so much as a scratch. If you lose her at any point, look out for her frozen breath, which will point you towards which tree she's hiding behind. After the final shot to the dome, Sniper Wolf will finally go down, this time permanently. Approaching the wounded sniper, she and Snake share one final conversation. Sniper Wolf is fully aware that she's about to die. She tells Snake that she's waited for this moment. As a sniper, she's been waiting and enduring stillness her whole life. Now, she simply wants a quick and dignified end. Wolf reveals her childhood as a Kurd, which is a member of people who lived in Kurdistan, a region in Southwest Asia. She was born and raised amid constant war, waking each day to gunfire and death. Governments ignored her people's suffering, and her only escape came when Big Boss rescued her, inspiring her to become a sniper. From a distance, she witnessed the cruelty and senselessness of war and eventually joined the Foxhound traitors, seeking revenge on a world that had abandoned her. But now, she says she has betrayed her people and has become a dog, selling her body and soul to violence. Snake pushes back. In many indigenous Alaskan cultures, wolves are seen as noble and honorable, not like dogs or mercenaries for hire. Snake still sees her as a wolf.
In Yupik, the word for wolf is Keglanek, and the Aleuts revere them as honorable cousins. They call mercenaries like us dogs of war. It's true, we're all for sale at some price or another, but you're different. Untamed, solitary. You're no dog, you're a wolf.
Wolf admits to us that she spared Meryl.
Oh, thank God.
Because she doesn't kill for sport. She also confesses a truth that she's only just realised. She wasn't waiting to kill the perfect prey. She was waiting for a worthy opponent to kill her. Snake is that worthy opponent, and she asks him to set her free. Otacon then appears, devastated. He couldn't let her die without telling her how he feels. In maybe the most emotional moments of the game, he confesses his love for Wolf, but it's too late. Wolf reaches for her sniper rifle, and Snake returns it to her. Before she dies, she says,
She's part of me.
embracing it as her identity even in death. With everyone present, she gives Snake permission to end her suffering. And he does.
Everyone's here now. Okay, hero. Set me free.
Goodbye.
As the whiteness fades, Snake and Otacon stand over Wolf's body. Otacon is unraveling. He's in shock, sobbing through the disbelief that someone he'd grown to admire and care for has died moments after he confessed his love. Sniper Wolf was the first person in Foxhound who treated him like a person instead of a tool. Her death forces him to confront the brutal reality he has been helping to support through his work. Snake kneels beside Wolf and quietly returns her handkerchief. It became a tiny symbol of the gentler side of someone who had lived her entire life at war. Returning it now is Snake's gesture of respect, giving back a piece of her identity and acknowledging her beyond being an enemy combatant. Otacon asks why Snake doesn't keep it, why he won't hold on to this last memory. Snake replies,
I don't have any more tears to shed.
This is one of the most quietly devastating lines in the game. It tells us so much about his character. Snake isn't proud of who he's become. This line is him acknowledging that he's emotionally burnt out, drained by the years of killing. The contrast between the two characters is quite poetic. In this moment, Otacon's heart is breaking open, but Snake's has already scarred over. As Snake walks off, Otacon questions everything he believed. He asks what she was fighting for. What is he fighting for? And what is Snake fighting for? Snake makes him a promise.
If we make it through this, I'll tell you.
This cutscene is the moment Otacon becomes Snake's guy in the chair. Despite being heartbroken and terrified, he stays on the codec. He chooses to keep helping Snake out of a need to honour Wolf's memory and to ensure that her death wasn't meaningless. I love this cutscene so much. The emotional weight it brings to the game is almost crushing, and the voice acting is incredible. Yeah, the game is campy and silly at times, but when it wants to be taken seriously, it nails it. I also wanted to point out how great of a choice it was to cut to white when Snake shoots Sniper Wolf. This stylistic choice might seem meaningless to some, but it emphasises both the suddenness of her passing and Snake's internal detachment. This white screen mirrors how Snake has been conditioned to process death efficiently and without hesitation. Other games might show you the violence to emphasize how horrible it is to kill someone, but Metal Gear Solid aims to show you the reality of how soldiers are desensitized to the atrocities of war. But before you move on, make sure to search the area. There's a couple small buildings scattered around the place, one of which, on the right side of the snowfield, contains a shit ton of grenades, chaff grenades included, which you will be needing. Now you can disable the camera blocking your main path, and head towards the second half of the game. That's right, the second half. But don't worry, it's much shorter than the first. And this is where I'm going to end part 1 of my Metal Gear Solid retrospective. I haven't written this out, I'm winging what I'm about to say. I didn't want to take too much time making this video, so I've decided that I'm going to cut it into 2 parts. This already being like 2 hours long. Part 2 is probably going to be about the same, maybe an hour and a half. An hour if we're lucky. But because it has been so long since I first announced that I was going to make a Metal Gear Solid video, and because this is going to take me so long to make, I figured I just need to get it out. I just need to release a video on it. So here we are, this is part 1, part 2 will be coming at some point. I've written a lot of the script for part 2, it's probably going to be another couple weeks after this first part is posted. Anyway, there we go. That is part 1 of the Metal Gear retrospective. I hope you enjoyed. I am so happy that I did this. Not only was this incredible to play, but I love Hideo Kojima. I love Metal Gear Solid. The first one I played was the 4th one and I loved it. But it was just really cool to revisit. When I say revisit, it was really cool to go back to the roots, play the first one, see what all the hype was about, and just experience it, because it is fucking phenomenal. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed. This took ages to make, and part 2 is also going to take ages to make, but it will be worth it. I am going to do videos on the other games, all of the other games. Oh god, but who knows how long that's going to take. They're all really long and there's so much to talk about. As always, if you enjoyed, hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know if there's anything I missed, or if there's anything you want me to talk about in the next one, or I don't know, man. Tell me some facts. Tell me some cool facts about this game, or tell me about your first experience when you played this game. Tell me what you remember. What was your fondest memory about it? Just discuss it. I want to hear all the stories. As always, subscribe if you're new or if you haven't already, and I will see you all in part 2. Goodbye.